My name is Phil Conrad. I'm the instructor for Computer Science 156, Fall 20 at UCSB, UC Santa Barbara. I'm going to make a recording here to show you a couple things about using VS Code for the Java portion of this course. The recordings for this course, I just say right off the bat, they're going to be full of ums and stutters, and because there is just not enough time for me to go through and make them all beautiful and perfect. So I apologize right from the beginning. It is the best we can do under the circumstances, but here we are. So what I have here is VS Code. This is an editor that you can obtain free of charge by just doing VS Code in your browser. Type VS Code and go to download. And this is available, as you can see, for Windows, Linux, and Mac. I'm using the Mac version right here. There are some little keystroke differences from one platform to another, but for the most part, it works the same across platforms. This is also available on Cecil if you can get it to work with a remote desktop. It won't work through just a regular PuTTY SSH type connection. You do have to use the graphical remote desktop. It doesn't work too well over X11, if you know what that is. But in any case, VS Code. Now, what's cool about VS Code? Well, I've got some Java code here. This code is in a package. If you haven't learned about packages yet, that simply means that it's going to have to live under source main Java in my Maven directory structure under edu UCSB CS156. You can see the directories here match edu UCSB CS156. Not really what I want to focus on in this video, but I just thought I should mention it in case you're wondering what that is. Public class student. You can see that I have private string name, private int perm. Looks a lot like C++, slightly different syntax. In C++, we would do something like public and private, and then put our variables, like string name and int perm. That is not how we do in Java. Instead, there's no such thing as that or that. You just put public or private in front of each of your attributes. You may notice that you can leave off the private, in which case you get something that is neither private nor public, but something that's called package private. Again, topic for another time. The usual convention is usual practice is to make your attributes, your data members, private. So here we have a student with a name and a perm number. Any class in Java can have a main in it, and so I have a public static void main that simply creates a new student with a student constructor, student s equals new student, and I'm passing in a name and a perm. And then I might use a system.out.println and just say s equals and then plus s. It turns out that this will automatically convert s from student to a string, concatenate it to the s equals, and I'll get a printout on my screen. But you may be wondering, wait a minute, there's no constructor defined. And sure enough, if I come down here and try to compile this right now, let me clear my screen. If I do Maven compile, it says, oh, well, that's interesting. This is what happens when you don't, when you making videos on the fly. If I do a Maven clean and then do a Maven compile, there we go. All right, that's what I was expecting. So compiling this from scratch, having done a Maven clean, we see that there is no constructor here. Constructor student cannot be applied to the given types. Now, you may be wondering, well, what constructor is there? Well, every class in Java that doesn't have a constructor defined gets a default constructor. So there is a constructor defined that would look something like this, public student, basically that. It's just an empty constructor, takes no arguments, and produces an object where each of these string name will be a null pointer, perm will be 0. So if I did that, I have a constructor, but it doesn't. The arguments don't match, and that's what it's saying. Since I didn't define any constructors, I get a default constructor. If I did, for example, let me just take that and make it be new student like that. And to comment out a line in VS Code, on Mac at least, I use command / and it will comment it out. Command / again, it will uncomment it. So that's kind of handy. At this point, the code should actually compile. So let's see what happens if I compile it. Maven compile. And indeed it does compile. And if I Maven package, and then if I look, if an ls, you can see that I've got a target directory. Just to review a little bit about Maven, if I do Maven clean, and then do ls, you'll see I've got no target directory. Maven compile is what brings the target directory into existence. So you can do an ls. You can see there I've got a target directory now. And you can try this with your JPA00 code. You can see the same thing happening. If I do an ls on target to see what's inside that directory, you can see there's a directory called classes. And if I do an ls inside target/classes, you'll see that I've got edu, and if I just keep looking in there, edu, UCSB, CS156, finally what's down in there is student.class. So just to illustrate, there is the compiled code. Now I can run this. The way we normally run when we're working with Maven is we do a Maven package. And if I now look inside target, I've got a jar file. There it is, student1.00.jar. The name of this comes from the name in my pom.xml. So let's take a look in that pom.xml right quick. And that pom.xml, you can see the artifact name is student. The version is 1.0.0. This is the group ID. And it's the artifact ID and the version that is used to name the jar file. So to run, I'm going to do java -cp target/student1.0.jar, and then the class that has my main in it, which in this case is student. However, since student is in a package, just saying student won't work. I have to give the fully qualified name of the package, edu UCSB CS156.student. And now I get the output, s equals, and then this is what I get from converting that student to a string. Not very nice, but it works. But let's remember that what we really wanted to do was not make a empty student like this. We wanted to make a student that was Chris Gaucho. So if I put this back and try to compile again, let me do a Maven clean and then do a Maven compile. We're back to this, where we don't have the right kind of constructor. Now we could write a constructor. I could write public student string name int perm, and then do the usual thing, which is to say this dot name equals name, and this dot perm equals perm. Notice the syntax is a little bit different in Java than in C++. And C++, this would be this arrow name, no such thing in Java, this dot name. And this actually should now work if I Maven compile again and Maven package. Oops, that's misspelled. Maven package. And then run again. Well, that works. I don't see much difference here. In order to see a difference, I would need to override the toString method. So public string, public string toString, and then I could come in here and I could say return. And what I want to return is this object as a string. So that might look something like this. Return student name equals plus this dot name plus comma, and then perm equals plus this dot perm plus parentheses. Okay, so what we're doing there is we're just making a string. We're putting in this dot name and this dot perm, concatenating that with some other characters. And this special toString method is one where I'm overriding a toString method that comes from Java Lang object. We'll get into that another time. But this is how I can make sure that instead of getting this output here, I get something a little nicer. So let's do Maven compile. And then let's do Maven package. And then let's run this again. Oh, and now I see I get student name equals Chris Gaucho, perm equals so-and-so. Now, what I've done is I've defined a constructor with 2 arguments. I've defined a toString method. I could go on to define getters and setters, things like, public string get name, return this dot name, and I could, do the normal stuff. But this is what I really want to show you about VS Code. VS Code has these wonderful things called extensions. This place right here is where you find out about the extensions. And I have quite a few installed. If I do show installed extensions, you can see these are the ones I have installed. And the one that I really want to talk about is this one, Java Code Generators from Sohibe. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm just going to say Sohibe. If you install that, and you can install it by simply looking for Java Code Generator Sohibe, and it should come up. Let's see, where is it? Probably right in front of me and I'm not seeing it. Java Code Generators. There it is. Okay, so if you have this, and I have it already installed. So instead of seeing an install button, I see uninstall. But you would presumably install this. And let me show you why, because this is just awesome. Here's my student.java file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take out everything except my main and my 2 private instance variables. I'm going to put my cursor right there, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the extension write some code for me. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to right click in empty space here. On Mac, it's control click. And down here, I have Java Generator GUI. And I'm going to click Java Generator GUI. And I'm going to say, all right, I've got name string and int perm. I want a constructor that uses all the fields. Boom! There's a constructor that uses all the fields. I like where it put it. I'm going to put it here right after my fields. Now let's see, what else might I want? Well, let me go in here to this Java Generator GUI again. I think I want getters and setters. Boom! Look at that. I got all the getters and setters. Again, it put them up at the top of the file. Don't quite know why it's putting them there, but I will put them where I want them to be. So now I've got my, string name perm. I've got a constructor. I've got getters and setters, but I'm still not satisfied. What else do I want? I'm going to go into this generator GUI. I want a toString method. So let's make a toString method. And now here you have to be a little bit careful. My cursor was apparently in the middle of my getPerm method. That's not where a good place for it to be. So I'm going to undo, put my cursor here, make sure my cursor is there, and say, yep, right here is where I want you to put. Now please put it right there. I want a toString method. Boom, and I got a toString method. And there is my toString method. One more thing we're going to discover that every class should have is, go to this generator GUI, hashCode and equals. Hashcode and equals are methods you need in every class. And if you don't write them, bad things can happen. They're a little bit tricky to write. What's beautiful is that the generator almost always gets it pretty much correct. It gets it pretty close. One thing that does happen is it uses a class called objects, and you can see the little red wavy line indicates that that's an unknown type. The way to fix that is to come up here at the top and say import objects. Objects is in Java util. VS Code knows that. I click and it will give it the correct name, import Java util objects. And that makes the little wavy line go away. So we can see that that is now fine. Another way I could have done that, and this kind of illustrates the power of VS Code, if I just click on the wavy line, it says objects cannot be resolved. Quick fix. Oh, and the very first thing is import objects from Java util. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do that. and it puts the import at the top of the file where it belongs. So now, just by writing private string name, private int perm, and then writing my main class, and then using the generator to generate a constructor, getters and setters, equals and hashCode, very quickly I've got a full class going on here. Let's try running and testing. So I'm going to do Maven compile. And then I'm going to do Maven package. And then I'm going to do Java -cp. And we see I have S, name equals Chris Gaucho, perm equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we can try a couple things here. We can try our setter. We could do s.setName Alice Del Playa. By the way, there is no such Spanish as Del Playa, but whatever. It should be De La Playa. We all know that. Let's print that again, and hopefully the name will have changed from Chris Gaucho to Alice De La Playa, whoever she was. Let's do Maven compile and Maven package to generate a new jar file. And then Java CP, and there we have. We have first Chris Gaucho, then Alice Del Playa. And you kind of get the idea here, right? So I'm going to stop there. The things, just to review, we've seen that if you have a package for your Java class, you need that Java class to be under a directory structure, source main Java, and then a package directory structure that matches the package here. We have seen that every class can have a main in it. We ran the main from this class by specifying it here. Because the class is in a package, we can't just say student. We have to give it the full name of the package. We saw that the name of the jar file lives in the target directory, and the target directory should not be checked into GitHub. It lives inside the .gitignore. It's in the gitignore file. Just to show you, the gitignore file is here and has a list of all the things that we do not want to store in GitHub, and one of them is the target directory. And the reason is the target directory gets really big with a lot of generated stuff, all stuff that we can generate from the source. So there's no point in storing it on GitHub. In the same way that in C++ programming, we don't store our .o files or our executables in GitHub, just the source code. With Java, everything in the target directory is not something that gets stored on GitHub. We saw that with VSCode, I have these things called extensions right here, and I can download the Java code generators from Sohibe, and that Java code generators will allow me, when I work with Java code, to actually generate constructors, getters and setters, equals and hashCode, and a toString method. So that's all I want to show you in this video. Thanks for watching, and hope this was interesting and helpful.